In the foggy abyss of the multiverse, there exists a race of technicians, living embodiments of scientific, soulless passion. These beings were the finest surgeons and the greatest minds of their time, but their ambitions, which surpassed all reasonable limits, led to the destruction of their own world. They attempted to rewrite reality, to subjugate it to their will, but their audacious experiments resulted in catastrophe. When their world turned into lifeless ruins and survival became impossible, the technicians resorted to radical measures. They found salvation in the rift between the organic and the mechanical, transforming their bodies into hybrids where flesh fused with metal and nerves with wires. Respirators, implants, optical systems, all of this became essential to sustain life. But in exchange, their existence became locked in a state where death and immortality merged into a single whole. Thus, they became cold and insensible monsters, the driving force behind the events of the Invincible War, a tragedy that claimed millions of human lives. Their story is inextricably linked with that of the brilliant scientist Angstrom Levy, capable of traveling between worlds. One day, the man discovered the existence of the multiverse, a true ocean of worlds. Some of the realities were similar to each other, while others differed greatly. But in every one of these universes, there was a hidden uniqueness, whether it was technologies beyond our understanding or entirely different forms of thinking. Global issues like wars, diseases, and poverty had already been solved in some of these universes. And Levy, being a good man with the ability to travel between worlds, decided to become a Prometheus, a savior who would improve the quality of life, starting with his own Earth and eventually helping the other worlds. For such grand plans, he needed an understanding of the universes on a multiversal scale. How fortunate it was that in each reality, there was its own version of a scientist, one who was well-versed in the workings of their own world. Levy was left with the task of finding all these versions, convincing them of his noble intentions, gathering them together, and then using a special machine to download all their memories and knowledge into his brain. Only in this way could he assemble the puzzle of the multiversal masterpiece and see the whole picture. With the help of the Mahler twins, he managed to build such a machine, connect it to devices from other dimensions, and synchronize thousands of minds. However, the appearance of the Invincible shattered all of Levy's and humanity's hopes for a bright future. Mark, upon seeing the Mahler twins, believed Levy to be just another villain. But since Angstrom wasn't a bad guy and couldn't allow the Mahlers to kill the superhero, he halted the experiment, which was catastrophically forbidden. As a result, a powerful explosion occurred, during which Levi was horribly disfigured. His brain couldn't handle the immense strain and permanently lost the ability to distinguish his own memories from those of his doppelgangers. And considering that in most worlds, the Invincible was a villain who had personally left a bloody trail in the histories of the alternative Levies, can you imagine the images that flooded his mind? For example, Mark the Executioner, the Invincible in one reality killing Angstrom Levy's son, in another his wife or girlfriend, and in a third his companions. It's no surprise that the original Levy became consumed by the fear, rage, and hatred of his counterparts, vowing to take revenge on the Invincible. He could no longer distinguish where his memories ended and where those of others began. Due to the explosion, Levy was crushed and his internal organs were damaged. First and foremost, he needed to find a way to get back on his feet, but this was impossible without outside help. Through his travels across the multiverse, Levy discovered the technicians, the best surgeons, and struck a deal with them. They would help him recover, and in return, he would help them find a new home. The technicians performed their task flawlessly, but they could not find a way to fix his disfigurement. The surgeons not only restored his body, but made it much stronger, tougher, and more resilient. When Levy confronted the Invincible and suffered a brutal defeat, he once again turned to the technicians for help. This time, the scientists managed not only to heal all his wounds, but also to restore his face, which had previously been turned into a mangled mess. They provided Angstrom with a metallic frame that supported his head and neck, as well as implanted various devices into his brain. This was done for a number of reasons. Levy was in no hurry to fulfill his part of the deal, as he was consumed by revenge. These devices not only allowed them to control him, but also to track him, in case Levy decided to escape and hide in the darkest corners of the multiverse. During the Invincible War, when, due to Mark Grayson's actions, Levy lost his right arm, he once again turned to the technicians for help, hoping they would immediately repair him. However, the technicians had grown tired of the endless whims and demands of the scientist. They presented him with a stark ultimatum. Now, he belonged to them. Everything they had promised had been fulfilled, and now the time had come for Levy to honor his part of the deal. If he agreed to cooperate with them, they would restore his arm. If he refused, he would lose his life. Levy could not refuse and was forced to comply. The technicians once again fulfilled their part of the deal, replacing his damaged arm with a cybernetic prosthesis. The work was flawless. The new limb felt almost like his own. Now, Levy began his work. He spent a great deal of time creating a new, perfect world for the technicians, crafted from countless dimensions. This reality was inhabited by beings who revered the technicians and worshipped them as true gods. Now the problem with resources was solved. Levy had provided the technicians with an endless supply. Finally, the surgeons no longer needed him, and the scientist was free. However, their ambitions and appetites continued to grow. At some point, they decided that, for their own survival, they must destroy other worlds. They poisoned themselves and ravaged one planet after another until they reached Earth. The scale of the destruction was so vast that Earth had never faced anything like it. However, thanks to Emperor Nolan of the new Viltrumite Empire and Robot, who effectively ruled Earth, the invaders were ultimately defeated. The last surviving technician was personally slain by Nolan, at Robot's urging, who believed it was the only way to secure lasting peace. The story of the technicians has come to an end. Hit like on this episode and subscribe to the channel if you found it interesting. See you soon.